Hello, I'm Morris Ruddick, and we've been talking about Jewish business secrets. Today, we're going to begin talking about entrepreneurship. Many mistakenly view entrepreneurs simply as people in business. Entrepreneurs are a great deal more. In taking a closer look at Jewish business secrets, it's important to understand the distinction. Entrepreneurs are change artists. They create and innovate. They are people of discipline who spot opportunity and know what to do about it. They build, establish a new order of things, and in so doing, bring increase. They challenge the status quo with better solutions to problems, and they know how to do so at a profit. The Jewish perspective in viewing these prime entrepreneurial characteristics of creating and bringing increase entails even more. A finely honed stewardship is one of the unique dimensions of Jewish business secrets. A vital element of the stewardship that has endured within Jewish culture that triggers the creative to bring increase is a form of generosity. This dynamic is described best by the Hebrew word Sadaqa. Sadaqa can be translated either as righteousness or charity. In reality, it encompasses something from each of these English words. For centuries, for the Jewish people, Sadaqa has been a community dynamic, a targeted generosity that helps those in the community in need while simultaneously building the community with a focus on strengthening the emerging generation. For the entrepreneur, this involves giving back, not only when success comes, but all along the way. I've previously shared from the words of the psalmist that all goes well for the generous man who lends freely and conducts his business fairly. In the same writings, it also says that such people give generously to those in need, and their righteous deeds will never be forgotten. This perspective, this community generosity, bonds one generation to another, with new generations embracing an excellence that exceeds the generation before it. There's a Jewish proverb that states that righteousness exalts a nation. The Hebrew for righteousness here is the word tzedakah. A more correct translation in English would be that righteous charity exalts a nation. In other words, the practice of generosity within the community operates as a process, then spills over to the benefit of the overall community, bringing blessings to all. It finds its origins in the mantle of Abraham: to be blessed, to be a blessing. This way of thinking is significant within Jewish mindsets and the secrets of doing business as the Jews do. It is ingrained in Jewish culture. Having been involved in helping several initiatives in Israel, I've observed that even non-practicing Jews operate as walking Torahs, of being living examples of the truths of their faith. Indeed, the principles outlined by Moses that instruct families to teach these things to their children and their children's children have taken root in the culture of the Jewish people. That is why it has been important for us to take a closer look at the foundations and the culture. We've also mentioned the model established by Abraham of the community being nurtured by being God-centered and entrepreneurial is a core premise in understanding Jewish business secrets. My friend Bill Bolton, entrepreneurial expert, author, and former Cambridge professor, explains that there are many types of entrepreneurs other than classic and business entrepreneurs. There are serial entrepreneurs who specialize in starting something new and getting them profitable, then turning them over to someone else to operate as they move on to the next entrepreneurial challenge. However, what I'd like to share is about a man whose natural gift combines two very potent types of entrepreneurship. It is a story demonstrating my point about how the model, the gifts, and the culture are ingrained in Jewish mindsets. This is the story about a friend of mine whose name is Joel. Joel is a non-practicing Jew. He believes in God, and similar to the many Christians who also are non-practicing in their faith, his time of devotions is generally limited to times of crisis and what in Judaism are known as the high holy days, or what in Christendom would be the major Christian holidays. I'm also going to mask some of Joel's story simply to protect the wonderful and meaningful role he has come to assume in his adopted Asian nation. It was about a decade and a half ago, when Joel was winding up a master's degree in Hong Kong, that he took a long weekend to go visit an Asian country he had always wanted to visit. He fell in love with the people and the culture, and he knew he would soon be going back. When he returned, not unlike the experience I had had with my sensibilities being assaulted by the level of poverty I saw in Ethiopia, Joel was exposed to the plight of the disabled and disfigured in this fast emerging nation. Many were shunned by their families, who concluded the lame and disfigured had been cursed. Although many were very gifted in many ways, few were able to attend college, with far too many not even finishing secondary school. Those who were able to find work were destined to long hours in very low pay in factories with little to no opportunity for advancement. Far too many had become street beggars. Being gifted as both a social and serial entrepreneur, Joel put together the training needed to operate a number of unique small businesses, which he started. Some of these businesses had markets in his adopted country, and some he sold by means of shrewdly designed relationships with major online distributors. He soon rented an old villa in a more inexpensive part of his city. He provided dormitory type of living spaces for the men and the same type of sleeping room for the women. He provided someone to prepare basic but ample meals of their culture. With several dedicated workspaces for the different enterprises, most mastered the training quickly and soon became a part of the businesses Joel had started. Joel's original goal had been to provide these people the training and experience to be able to start their own businesses. Some did, but most who became a part of his efforts found the purpose and the dignity of these arrangements to be far greater than anything they had ever experienced in their previous work settings. So as the process developed, Joel made arrangements for those who wanted to stay to have a share in the profits that originally had been designed just to pay for the program. What was developing was exceeding expectations. God was clearly blessing them. Joel's creativity and ability to bring increase while reaching out to disabled and disfigured men and women converged into something a lot more than what he anticipated. It all came together to create opportunity that exceeded expectations. Each of the factors we've been talking about have been operating in this illustration: the model, the gifts, and the culture derived from these amazing people of business, the Jews. Isaiah, one of the Jewish prophets, wrote about matters that are very close to the heart of God. He explained that when you help the poor and the needy, the underprivileged, then your light will dawn in the darkness, and your darkness will become as noonday. This prophet went on to write that when this is your focus, then the Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your soul in drought and strengthen your bones. You'll be like springs of water whose waters do not fail. Yet there's another dimension. It is entrepreneurship that more fully embraces the spiritual dimension. It means going beyond the intellectualizing of the faith. There's another proverb that states, "In all your ways acknowledge Him." In all your ways acknowledge God, and God will direct your paths. It becomes much more personal in the way both individuals and communities of God's people put their faith in action and map out their destinies. It involves making God the senior partner of their businesses. For God to be senior partner means that we proactively need to be depending on His guidance and our planning. For many, breaching that threshold can be downright scary. We're not going to cross that bridge yet. Nevertheless, hearing God in specifics has been frightening to the very people whose patriarchs were known for doing so. When Moses led the Israelites out of captivity from Egypt, the people themselves were terrified when God spoke. Far too many thought they would die at the sound of God's voice. So they begged Moses to take his conversations with God elsewhere and then return to them and tell them what God had said. Even years later, when God appeared to Gideon, God's first words to Gideon were, "Peace be with you. Do not fear. You will not die." For both Jews and Christians, this reluctance to bridge the gap in learning to discern the voice of God has paralyzed the institutionalizing and intellectualizing of the faith, with the result dampening that dimension of the supernatural power that could be operating through God's people. We will take up the subjects of hearing God's voice, along with planning in conjunction with the Holy Spirit in future sessions. And I'm Morris Ruddick. In our next session of Jewish Business Secrets, we're going to take a look at how entrepreneurship plays a vital role in what I describe as God's economy.